like at a time where if you're doing a commercial, you have to go to a different country to do it.
Right.
Because people used to not want to be sellouts. And if you were a celebrity and you were doing a TV commercial, you'd go do it in Japan or somewhere because you don't want people at home to see it.
Right.
To know that you're
taking
so
money
desperate
for that.
money.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, sell out as much as you can.
Yeah.
You can be a literal billionaire. You can be the biggest recording artist in the world, but you're still going to do ads for Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Katy Perry's hawking weight loss gum or something like that. Ryan Reynolds selling crypto.
Yeah.
You're in every movie. You make, what, like $6 million a movie, and you have to sell just everything all the time?
Yeah, like you're already everywhere. You need more money?
That's what everything is. All podcasts now are all just people who are already rich.
Yeah.
All commercials are super rich and famous people. Voiceover in cartoons, it has to be an established big name already. Voiceover actors and like commercial actors, where do they get a break now?
True.
Now it's going to be, I don't know, Anthony Hopkins selling you an app. I want Ian McKellen crypto. That's what I'm going to buy.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. Oh, like all the stupid phone games. It was like Jimmy Fallon. My ad on TikTok the other day was Jimmy Fallon. I was like, just stop. Just go do your thing.
You're so famous.
Yeah.
Let someone that's not a name do something.
Yeah.
And I'd like to mention, welcome to I Love This, You Should Too, a podcast run by two nobodies and just us. No big network here.
No.
Just two people recording in their kitchen.
Yeah.
For free.
For free.
So maybe go tell someone to listen to this and not Reese Witherspoon's takes on the NFL. Although I'd kind of listen to that.
I feel like she knows what she's talking about.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll listen to that and report back to you.
Okay, great.
But welcome.
Wait, is that a real thing? Because I kind of want that.
Probably. All of the things I said I made up, but any one of them could be true.
True. Yeah.
I bet they're all selling crypto.
Oh, probably.
Do you sell it? That's how I know something's a scam. If you need a commercial for currency,
Yeah.
doesn't seem right.
No. I also thought that like Bitcoin was like a similar currency to like actual money, but you can just have one Bitcoin.
Well, you can have just $1.
Yeah, but one Bitcoin is like $600.
It didn't used to be.
Yeah. So I learned about that recently and I was like, seems like a scam and like something I shouldn't be spending my money on.
I feel like all of the subsequent ones, well, they've been proven to be scams. Like
Lots of
presidents are just like, you know what? I'm going to make a quick $1 billion. I'll just put this out, take all the money and then go bye. And then it's fine. And everyone's just like, yeah, that's what the world is now.
That's just how world works.
Yeah. What was I talking about? Introducing us?
Yeah, podcast.
It's me, your host, Indy, nobody special Randhawa, and my lovely co-host, Samantha, will sell out for any amount of money, Randhawa.
That's me. I will sell out.
Yeah,
so
we'll sell out.
We're not
Not for anything though, but
We're not
I'll hawk crypto without knowing what it is.
too proud to read ads for money.
Yes. Just
So-
give us some money. We'll read your ad right here.
Sponsor us, please.
There are some things I won't,
No?
but most things.
Yeah.
If it's just like a product,
Yeah.
paper towels? Sure. We are sponsored by paper towels. Use them to clean stuff up. There you go. There's your ad.
Paper towels.
No brand.
Please
Just
hire
paper
us.
towels. Oh, it's been like a few minutes already. We should start off.
Okay.
So what we are doing today is we are talking all about the 2003 movie Lost in Translation. This was a movie that I saw when I was 18, 19, whenever it came out. And I liked it then, hadn't seen it since, so I really wanted to rewatch it. Samantha was unclear if she had seen it, so we're just going to say you hadn't because you didn't remember anything about it at all.
No.
I think you might have just known about it from being in the world.
I had snobby film friends, so I think I just heard about it a lot.
And this one, you didn't have to be a snob because it was very, very successful. It's much better if you're a snob. You'll like it more if you're a snob, like
Yeah.
I was. But I liked it a lot then. We'll talk about my thoughts upon this 22 years later rewatch.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know your thoughts on it.
Well, let's talk all about it for the next, I'm going to say, hour and 2 minutes. That's usually how this goes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll see. But first, your first watch, pretty much. What'd you think?
I liked it. I thought it was kind of artsy.
It was kind of artsy.
I thought it was like a pretty accurate representation of being in a foreign country and not speaking the language. I thought that Scarlett Johansson was very charming.
Yeah, I will agree with 66% of that.
Oh, okay.
I also liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as I did then.
Okay.
Although I'm not sure. My mood on this movie is changing throughout the day. And I think that's one of the interesting things about it is I liked it more the next day.
Oh, once you had time to kind of like percolate?
Maybe it's that. It's not that I thought things out and figured things out. It's more that a lot of independent elements of this movie I didn't care for. There were a lot of things that I thought weren't great while watching it. And early on, I was thinking, like, is this even good? And 2 days later, I'm like, no, it might be great. So we'll talk all about that. We'll have a little bit of structure today. I thought maybe I'll start off with talking about some context of how the movie was made and where certain people were in their careers and lives, because it does impact this movie a good bit. I want to talk about the themes, or perhaps just theme of the movie. I want to talk a bit about how they are disconnected, disaffected people and looking for those moments of connection, and how that is present throughout, of course, the two performances, but also in the style of the movie and how things are shot.
Okay.
We'll probably talk about some of those formal aspects in there. And we'll probably have to talk about the ending, because the ending is a thing about this movie.
Okay.
Maybe we'll save that for the end, fittingly enough.
Ending at the ending?
That makes sense.
Great.
All right. So this movie was done on a budget of $4 million. It was an independent picture. It later got picked up by, I think, Focus Features.
Yes.
And it grossed over $120 million on that $4 million budget.
That's crazy.
Which is very impressive. And upon this rewatch, I completely understood why early pretentious film student Indy liked this movie and why I would like it now. Makes perfect sense. There's a lot of things that I like in a film. How it got that popular in the mainstream is very surprising to me. That many people saw this movie in theaters?
Yeah.
It was huge. It was a very successful movie. And
it's a lot of money to make.
Doesn't seem like the type of movie that usually is.
Yeah.
It's very slow. The ending is ambiguous. There's not like a real love story. Bill Murray was the big name, but he wasn't a huge draw at the time, I don't think.
Right.
It's 2003, so he's kind of on this resurgence with doing Rushmore and maybe Tenenbaums around that time. So he's doing those Wes Anderson movies, but those also, that's pretty niche. It's not huge, and this broke through. Sofia Coppola is coming off of Virgin Suicides, a movie I loved, not big. And Scarlett Johansson had done Ghost World. She'd done some movies as a kid, but I don't count those as much, really. Like, teenage her is kind of the career path that I'm familiar with. But Ghost World also very good. Not huge, though.
Yeah.
So it is very impressive, and I think kind of confusing that this movie did so well at the box office.
Yeah. Interesting for such a small film, like budget-wise, I guess. It's not like small. But yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked to hear that, and I didn't look anything up in like beforehand, so I didn't know. But yeah, it's interesting to see that this kind of movie was big.
It did well at the Oscars. It had 4 nominations: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Original Screenplay.
Wow.
And it won for Best Original Screenplay, which is kind of funny because it didn't really have a script. A lot of it was improvised. They would just kind of say, this is what's going to happen in this scene, and then people just do their thing. There's some scenes that were just entirely like, hey, I want to do this, and then they did it and they put it in the movie.
That's very cool. I like when the actors get to just kind of be like in the scene and decide what's going to happen.
And because it was pretty low budget, they had to do a lot of things kind of secretly. I know for a fact because I took a video from the Starbucks at Shibuya Crossing because I wanted that view, because it's this very famous crossing that's very, very busy, and they had that in the movie. And I was like, I know that because I have a video of the exact same angle. So they were just shooting in a Starbucks, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it was a lot of stuff that they're just not like a full guerrilla style, but kind of bordering on that. And it was filmed in just 27 days. So it's a true, like, it's an independent film movie.
Wow.
Sometimes I'll tell you stories about Bill Murray and how, like, he's both delightful and kind of terrible at the same time. Like, there's all these stories of how he'll just crash a university kegger and just hang out with everyone, drink all night, and then they all pass out and he just does the dishes and leaves. Like, he'll do things like that.
Wow.
Or he goes up to people on the street and just covers their eyes, and then they turn around and it's Bill Murray, and he just goes, no one's ever going to believe this story, and just walks off. So he does like fun things with his celebrity, but he was also like a kind of egomaniacal, as a lot of celebrities will be, and that kind of can affect their performance on set. But one interesting thing was, for many years, definitely for this movie and still today, he doesn't have an agent. So if you want to cast Bill Murray in something, you call a 1-800 number, and you just leave a message and you pitch a movie to him.
And he just like picks up his messages and listens to them.
That's how he chooses all of his projects.
That's madness, but I love it.
But the number is also hard to get. So it's not just out there for anyone to get it. So I'm pretty sure Sofia Coppola got it from Wes Anderson. Because Wes Anderson had worked with him. She's wrote this script for him. That character was written for Bill Murray and no one else. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but she did say that if she couldn't get Bill Murray, they wouldn't have made this movie.
Oh, wow.
That's
like a pretty...
was for Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And I think with good reason. I think he's a good fit for it.
I think so.
But she calls for months, leaves dozens of messages, and she's not getting any response. So she is, of course, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, who did the Godfather movies and kind of knows Al Pacino. So she calls Al Pacino up and says, could you call Bill Murray and tell him to call me back? And she's like cashing in favors with all of her kind of celebrity friends, saying, call Bill Murray and tell him to do this movie.
Oh, that's fun.
She eventually gets him. But again, he doesn't have an agent or anything. So all she has is like, oh, okay, you're shooting in Japan and this time? Yeah, okay, sounds good. I'll be there. And that's it. And then she can't reach him again. So they go up and do all their pre-production stuff and just wait and assume Bill Murray is coming. And she's like, I don't know if he's coming. Maybe this is all for nothing. Do we have to scrap it? Can we get someone else last minute? And then he just shows up because he's like, yeah, I said I'd come on this day, and here I am.
I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I'm an elusive professional, but I'm a professional.
Maybe eccentric.
Yeah.
A little eccentric.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I think that's real funny. Sofia Coppola, I have a tumultuous relationship with because I really like some of her stuff, and I really disliked some of her stuff. But she, of course, is from the famous Coppola family. Her cousin, Nick Coppola, or Nick Cage, as he's often known, her father, Francis Ford Coppola. There's editors in the family. And she, as a young adult, doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She has a fashion line. She starts a clothing line, puts that out. She tries to be a photographer. She does that for a while, moves on. She's a host on MTV for a bit.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was this terrible show. I've seen clips of it. It's called like High Octane or something.
Oh.
And it's like today we're going BMXing to the max.
That's weird.
It is very
I don't
weird.
like that at all.
It was so 90s.
No, thank you.
And then she marries Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze, also a very talented director. I like a lot of his movies quite a bit. And she starts directing and I'm not saying it's because of Spike Jonze, because like her dad was Francis Ford Coppola, so she wasn't far off always, and she was always doing stuff in film. And her debut, I think her debut was Virgin Suicides. It's the one that I knew of her first, and it's great. I think it's very good. I need to watch more of her recent stuff because there's a bunch that I haven't. But from what I've seen, all of her movies seem to feature a younger woman, usually someone who's coming from a pretty privileged life, but is ultimately dissatisfied with the world that she's stuck in, or the place she's stuck in, or the job she's stuck in, something like that. Like she did Marie Antoinette maybe next after this. You love that kind of thing. Have you seen Marie Antoinette?
I have.
How'd you like it?
I thought it was like silly and kind of fun.
I greatly disliked it. It might have been because her last two movies I loved, and I saw that in theater maybe opening weekend, and I really disliked it. So
I also saw it in theater opening weekend.
Oh, we could have been
we
there
could have been there at the same
together.
time. It was fun, and it was a spectacle, as you'd expect from that period of time. But I don't think it's as good as some of her other stuff.
Which ones of hers have you seen?
I saw, this one I really enjoyed, the look and everything. And so then if you told me that they were done by the same people, I would be like, that's really interesting. What it feels like is Marie Antoinette was done by someone who grew up watching a very serious filmmaker and then was like, here's my debut.
I completely agree with that.
And I think that it feels like Lost in Translation was made by the previous generation of filmmaker. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Kind of.
That this is perhaps more of her own voice and vision, while Marie Antoinette is ultimately derivative and attempting to be something else.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I think. But we're going to continue with this one. And then a lot of this is based on her life. Giovanni Ribisi's character, is his name John, I think, is pretty well recognized as being based on her then husband, Spike Jonze. They would divorce shortly after this came out, so they were kind of going through it during the making of this. And there's a lot of talk that Kelly, the Anna Faris character, is based on Cameron Diaz.
Oh.
And they worked together on Being John Malkovich, which we watched and I loved. So that was a Spike Jonze movie.
Okay.
She would often go with Spike Jonze to Japan to shoot videos and things like that. And this was very much based on what she was going through. She has denied that in interviews and then also said, yeah, that's true in interviews. So whatever. Most people say that's the case, and I don't disagree.
Interesting.
So that's a bit of context. We know Bill Murray was a very big star, and this is kind of on that upswing of him getting more, I don't want to say more relevant, maybe more relevant to a younger audience, at least. Mm-hmm. And both her and Scarlett Johansson are coming off of some smaller success, but definitely on the rise.
Right.
And maybe now we can just talk about stuff in the movie.
Sure.
Would you agree with me that the notion of disconnection ultimately is what the movie's mostly about?
Yeah, I think so. I'd agree with that, I think. I definitely think that this movie would not work now because we are so connected now.
You mean in the sense of phones and
technology and Google Translate and all of this stuff. Half of the conflict in this movie is just because nobody speaks English.
But I think this would still work. I think it would just look differently. Mm-hmm. I think if it were today, she would be in Japan and then maybe she would be sending videos and saying hey, I'm here doing this. And then she would shut it off and then you would see her go back to...
But it's kind of a lie.
Yeah, it's ultimately hollow.
Yeah.
Or maybe she would be trying to FaceTime people and just with the phone calls, it doesn't quite work out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I could see how that would work. I just really enjoyed how, like, not kind of how lost all the characters felt. I kind of enjoyed that.
They were kind of lost in translation.
Woo. But like, it just felt like they were all kind of spinning out on their own, and then these two characters happened to find each other, and I really enjoyed that.
Did you find that for other people as well, or just our two leads, that they were kind of lost in this world?
It felt like the wife back in, I'm assuming she was in LA, also seems very lost.
But we don't really know.
We don't really know anything about her,
Yeah.
but it really seems like she doesn't really know. And then, it felt like lots of the characters didn't really know what was going on in their worlds, and they felt a little lost. But you definitely get that in our two main characters.
I kind of just felt it with the two of them, but maybe it's because you don't get enough of the others.
I think...
Or maybe they're fine with the amount of loss they are. Like Anna Faris's character, when she's up there doing her press conference, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She seems fine with it, though.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's the difference.
Yeah.
Both, I'm going to try very hard to call them by their characters' names because I always revert to actors. And this is not Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson.
I have the cast in front of me.
Well, I think I only need the two.
Bob and Charlotte.
Bob and Charlotte. So Bob and Charlotte are both in, I guess, troubled marriages.
Yeah.
And I think they're both facing a similar crisis of identity in that they don't know what it is anymore.
Mm-hmm. Bob
was once this A-list celebrity, and now he's doing commercials in Japan. And now you look at that and like, cool, yeah,
That's
commercials
amazing.
are the height, but that
like,
wasn't the case.
Getting
then.
to go to Japan to do it? That's awesome.
And Charlotte hasn't yet established that. She's still kind of unclear on how to create this identity for herself, how to do it, and then what it ultimately should be. Maybe she was relying a little too much on it being with her relationship and marriage, and then that's not it. She doesn't even seem like particularly like the guy, and she's kind of lost that way. And then you get both of them are awake all night, and it's that special kind of disoriented insomnia that you only get from traveling to the other side of the world. And that works to exacerbate the feelings of alienation and disconnection to the world that they're living in. And I think putting that in about how they're always meeting in the middle of the night and can't sleep, that definitely adds something to it for me.
Yeah. This movie takes place at night mostly, it seems like.
Because they can't sleep?
Because they can't sleep. And yeah, I think I agree with you that insomnia and that like weird schedule you end up being on when you fly to the other side of the world, it's interesting, and it's its own kind of loneliness.
And there's something about the night that is just fundamentally different. Everything feels different. Oh, you know what? They're watching a scene on TV. Is it from La Dolce Vita? Some real film nerds are going to get at me about this, but I believe a bunch of that scene is about how you can be romantic at night and then the sun comes up and you're like, oh, everything's different now. And it's just that charm, that freedom, something about it is different. It's like you're in a different world, and that world ends when the sun comes up, and the same rules no longer apply.
Right.
And I feel like that is kind of baked into this movie.
It's like that other movie that we watched, that trilogy, the Before Sunrise.
Oh, Before Sunrise, Sunset, and Midnight.
Yeah. It's like when the sun comes up, everything kind of changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that in life, too. And then there's a lot of fun ways where they show this. I think one of the more clear ones is when Bob is doing that commercial and the director is saying all these things, and then the translator says one thing and he's like, that's all he said. And things are very literally getting lost in translation in that part. But then they're also using jump cuts in that scene. The jump cut is when you cut, but the camera hasn't moved or gone to a different place. Time has passed, but the camera isn't going out of its way to show time has passed. It's just, oh, now we're 10 seconds in the future. Now we're 2 minutes in the future.
Right.
And it's just flashing it at you, which is kind of disorienting as well. So that adds to his confusion and his frustration. And he's doing all of these kind of exaggerated facial actions,
Yeah.
which I thought he has some great face acting
He
is what
really
I
does.
wrote down.
During the commercial, he is like really going for it. And I appreciate it. And I think because they were naming all these like famous American actors,
Yeah.
I think he did a really good job at most of them.
Yeah.
I thought he was really like being those people.
It's funny, her dad, Francis Ford Coppola, actually did ads for Suntory whiskey
Oh, really?
with Akira Kurosawa. Two of the greatest filmmakers ever in the world did some Suntory whiskey commercials together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild, actually, that connection there.
And then, of course, they're trying to find some sort of connection in each other. Or first, it's more they're going to try to go do things. And Charlotte invites him out with her, but he doesn't find anything in the city, or neither of them really find anything to latch onto out there. Despite all of these things that we see, they don't connect with any of it. And I think that's a time when using Tokyo is useful by showing like there's so many things, and they're not connecting with anything. The only thing they do connect with maybe is each other. Do you like them?
I don't dislike them.
I think if they were people we met, we wouldn't like them.
Yeah.
And I worry about that because a lot of what I like about this movie is I feel like it captures things that I feel and have difficulty articulating. But my fear in those types of feelings, because when you're thinking about how like, oh, I'm so disconnected from the world, it's ultimately rooted in selfishness. I think there's a lot of selfishness in spending so much time being self-reflective. And I see that in both of them too, as I fear there is in myself. Like they both have a fundamental inability to perform a lot of social and societal niceties.
Right.
They can't pretend to like something they don't like. They both feel kind of judgmental as well.
They do feel very judgmental.
Like when she won't go along with the conversation Anna Faris is having with her husband, Anna Faris is playing like a kind of a dummy. And also, we're probably not going to talk about any other performances, but I thought she was very good doing that.
Oh my God. This
Isn't
is
she
like
great?
the perfect, like vapid blonde actress who is really just like the boobs and the hair in the movie, right? Like,
But like not an over the top
No.
performance of that. Something that I see people like this. I know people like this. And you're not like, oh, they're not bad. They're just like, that's it. What you got on the surface, that's
all.
it.
This is all.
And that's good. It must be such a lovely life to be like that. And to see, look, now look at me. I sound just like Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
That's what I see too much of myself in the two characters. That's what I'm scared of. Because I don't like them. I think they are too self-involved and selfish.
They do seem very selfish. And they also, I don't know, they're like so perfect to be thrown together because they've got very similar things happening in their lives, and to be able to like turn towards each other and be so similar, it's really actually kind of amazing.
The same, but also kind of on different ends of it almost.
Yeah.
Like he's gone through it all. And he's probably more someone who's become jaded over the years, or maybe he was always like that. We're not sure, but it definitely seems like he's someone who's on the downswing and is now finding that he doesn't connect to things like he used to. With her, she's young. I think she's playing probably like 24 or something like that, because they've been married for a couple of years. She just graduated, so I think it's somewhere in there.
Yeah,
And
she's very young.
That's also kind of one of those times when it happens, when you just get out of university and you're like, okay, I've been idealistic all this time. What do I do with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know. And I really do like those times when they talk about that, and he almost gives more like fatherly advice that like, you're not hopeless, it can get better. And we don't see too much of that, and I guess we don't want just speeches, because this has very little dialogue, really.
Yeah, it is like it's a very quiet movie.
For a movie of just two people talking, they don't talk all that much.
No, they are just kind of enjoying each other's company.
And I think it's perfect casting that Bill Murray was that role, because he has this sarcastic cynicism to him, just in every performance, essentially. But also there seems to be like a little bit of that, like the fool's wisdom. Was that too Shakespearean? Like he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And he maybe masks it with humor. And he seemed like the perfect actor to play this role. And I guess it was written for him, so that makes sense. And she is that kind of disaffected person, but I feel like she has hope.
Yeah.
Right? She can find that thing still. She's looking for it. Maybe she's more actively looking than him as well.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work, like when she has that phone call about like, I went to this monastery and I didn't feel anything. She sees that as a flaw and is maybe more active on it, while Bob is, oh, I don't feel the same way with my wife anymore, so I'm going to sleep with the singer. He's not actively trying to improve like I feel that she might be. And perhaps that's the good thing about the two of them meeting, in that he will be kind of revitalized in meeting someone like her.
Yeah, her youthful enthusiasm does seem to kind of revitalize something in him, and he becomes a little less world weary.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how he begins the movie, of like, yeah, okay, I'm
going through the motions.
Gonna go get some money by doing this commercial, and like blah blah blah, blah, and just like really like kind of sad. He's like seems sad, but he's also kind of a sad person.
Yeah.
And then she gets in there and like kind of revitalizes his like life a little bit, and he finds joy again.
Does he?
I mean, he seems to kind of enjoy being
yes, that's true. That's
in the world again. Maybe joy is the wrong word, but he starts to kind of enjoy being out and around.
Or just with her, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe not the being out and around, but wherever she is.
Yeah, I agree.
I was talking about that one scene and the jump cuts that kind of add to the disorientation, but there's a lot more that adds to the isolation that I liked a lot. Like those ones of Charlotte when she's in her hotel, she's kind of looking out over the city, and she's often framed within a large window. So she's both confined in something, but can see that there's so much out there, and she's separated from it by the window. In general, there's a lot of shooting through doors and windows as like a good visual metaphor, in this case for the insignificance maybe she's feeling, or the detachment to all of that she's feeling, because she's so high up that you can't really even see people.
Right.
You know they're out there, but she doesn't have any connection with them because of the literal distance in this case. And there's a lot of use of natural light in those scenes. She's lit by the world outside, but usually when we see the outside world, it's much more artificial. It's a lot of neons, it's a lot of bright lights, it's glowing bullets from an airsoft gun.
Right.
It's all that kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, you'll also then have the hotel bar, which is much more warmly lit, not natural like it was in the hotel room, but very distinct from the outside world of Tokyo. How did you like the pacing of this movie? Because there's a lot of movies I bring to you that are similarly paced, and you usually don't care for those.
It was slow, but I feel like the amount of things that you see in this movie, like we've watched other movies that were slow, that you don't get as much like scenery in it.
So do you think all of those
big city shots,
that kind of
thing,
keeps
like
you engaged?
It helped, yeah.
Interesting.
Because there was always something to look at, right? Like there was always something new. It wasn't the same 6 rooms over and over and over again. You were like out and you were seeing Tokyo, and you were seeing this like grand hotel, and you were, like, there was lots to look at, which kind of kept me engaged. Because
I'll agree that like not much happens in this movie, but I don't see it as a negative.
No,
because in a way it's so much more relatable, because the things that are keeping people apart in this movie are not kidnappings or wars or every romantic comedy, which is just a simple misunderstanding that could be clarified if someone just spoke to the other person.
Yeah, right.
It's just them. They could get together. And I guess we'll talk about pretty soon if it's romantic or what it is. Like in this movie, they could kiss in the first meeting.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't. And there's no big reason why. It's just, that's just kind of how people are.
Yeah.
That's the reason for so much of this. It's tricky to say why things happen other than, that's just how people are sometimes.
Yeah. And like coming from the places that they're coming from, it kind of makes sense. Like not like being more real life, this like as this movie is, it seems like it's not movie magic where everyone's on the same page at the same time and ready for the big romantic kiss. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're both married. We're both in like weird, shitty situations. We're both in this like brand new place and we're feeling very lonely. But it doesn't mean that we're both like instantly on the same page. Maybe
that's a good jumping off point to get into the relationship in general and what you make of it, because my feelings on it have definitely changed from what I thought it was 20 some years ago to now. And I think that kiss, the one kiss they have, is a big part of it, because in conventional cinema, a kiss at the end of the movie is the resolution. It's the justification for spending your time watching this movie. It's a concrete outcome. And in this type of movie, it's ambiguity, perhaps?
Yeah.
So what did you think of the kiss, or just what did you think of their relationship? How would you categorize it?
So it was kind of like a confusing relationship, which we'll get into, but I just felt like at points it felt very like father-daughter.
Yes, definitely.
At other points it felt kind of romantic, like you could see the chemistry there. And then at other points it felt like they were just kind of oblivious and just like enjoying being with someone who had a very similar like view in life. It's like friendship.
So do you think ultimately that they both, or one or neither, has romantic interest in the other?
I don't know. I thought about this a lot this week, actually, since we watched it. I felt like it was like one of two things. They were like romantically interested and neither of them was sure the other person was like in the same place. And of course, with like a romantic comedy, you don't just like talk about it. And then also it felt like kissing your best friend just to see if there's anything there. Like it felt very much like we should probably just kiss one time just to see if there's like a spark.
So then they do.
They do.
Was there a spark?
I don't know.
So
I have a very hard time with that question.
And I think that's very intentional.
Yeah.
They purposely didn't put in the audio for that last little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I think that ambiguity is very intentional. But I think my mind changed when I thought of this movie from watching it 20 years ago. I did not remember them kissing on the lips. And I thought when they parted, they were both very sad.
Yeah.
But in this watch, I see that like, no, he kisses her on the lips, which is pretty much a romantic gesture.
Yeah,
I guess you could say like, oh, that could be friendship too, but I don't know. Like on the lips, like that seems like that's romantic.
Yeah.
And then they are both happy after, which I did not remember. And my new reading, I like it much less.
Oh.
When he kissed her, I was uncomfortable. I didn't care for it.
He does seem very, very much older than her.
He is. He absolutely is.
Yeah, but he seems like he should not be kissing her.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
A big part of it was that. And then also, I don't want to say it cheapens what they had, because if it's the greatest love story and then they live their lives happily together, then that's not cheap at all. But it felt like it took away from this bond they had of two lost people just trying to help the other find their way. And finding it in a happy relationship, a romantic relationship together. I don't know why that should feel cheap to me, but it kind of did, because not that the movie was leading us other places and then, haha, it's a romance, got you. It didn't feel cheap like that.
No.
It felt unnecessary.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I kind of liked the kiss at the end because it felt like tying up a bow on their experience.
I didn't want that bow. This movie was about that ambiguity, and they're trying to keep it going in the end, but when you kiss and then they're both happy, it didn't seem that ambiguous. And from what I can see and hear, it kind of sounds like he was saying, oh, that you had to tell him everything. And, oh, I forget what it was now, but it seemed like they were talking about just meeting again.
Yeah.
And that is so unfulfilling to me. And it shouldn't be. Because if you look at this as a romantic story about two lost people and they find love and now they're going to be happy together, that sounds like a good movie, but maybe that's just not what I wanted the movie to be. I wanted it to be something different. Movies about lonely people falling in love, there's so many of those. But movies about two lonely people realizing and seeing themselves in each other and then growing from that in a platonic way or in a kind of a mentorship fatherly way, because there were those scenes that seemed very much like that. That's something I don't see as much, and I kind of want to. Because if we heard the audio and he's just says, hey, you know, we both live in the same city, right? Well, do you want to have dinner next Wednesday?
Right. It would be
Doesn't that
easy.
seem wrong?
Yeah.
And I don't know why I feel like that's wrong, but it just doesn't feel in service of what I thought was trying to be portrayed through these two characters. I guess we already talked about the end, so maybe we don't have to talk about
end.
the end.
They kiss. Yeah, that's kind of a tough one to like.
So I like the ending less now. Before, my memory was this ambiguous ending. What did he say to her? I don't know. And now I just think, oh, they're just going to get together. That's why they're both happy. And they're like, all right, see you later.
So, yeah.
I don't want them to be a couple.
No. I don't know. I'm very conflicted about this ending.
Me too.
Yeah. Maybe that's the point.
I've also gone to a country, been very close with someone for a week, and then just said, bye, we will never see each other again, and let's not keep in touch on social media or anything like that. Because like, this was great.
Yeah.
Goodbye. And then you're gone and you never see them again. And that's cool.
Little vacation fling.
Or like something platonic too.
Yeah, that too.
Like there's been people I met and we hung out every day for like 5 days in a different country. Never saw them again. Always remember them.
Yeah.
Never saw them though.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Maybe, I guess that's just me putting my stuff on this movie of what I wanted out of it.
But I also think that like this movie does a really good job of making you think about your stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I really think that it does a really good job of like giving you a chance, and maybe because it is like slow and quiet, giving you a chance to really think about like whatever things that you might identify with in this movie, whether it's like traveling alone in foreign countries where you don't speak the language, or vacation fling, or, you know, meeting people and kind of never seeing them again.
Absolutely. I feel like the pacing and particularly the use of silence, it makes you think about those things. They're not talking to convince you of something of their character. They are just being in that moment and forcing you to be in that moment with them. There's a lot of silence throughout, and I think it's effective. I know a lot of people don't like that kind of pacing, but this movie is about those moods way more than it is about the plot or the dialogue. The dialogue, I don't think, is particularly good in much of it. There's a few scenes where I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. And you have so little dialogue and that's what you're using it on. That's perplexing. But it's in those silent moments. So much so that at the end, they have the big romantic scene where he comes back and they don't even tell you what he's saying.
Yeah.
They keep silence there to make you put everything on.
Put your own
Put your own stuff in there. But I think I spent too much time like looking at their faces and being like, oh, I'm not going to put my stuff on there. I think you already put stuff on there. I also heard, I'm not sure if this is very true or not, that it was meant to be heard. Mm-hmm. And then they couldn't hear it. And rather than normally you just ADR that in.
Just dub it in.
And she's like, oh, this works. Let's go with that. So it was kind of a happy discovery.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is interesting because it really does make you think about like your own life while you're watching it.
And we already jumped to the ending, so we covered that. But just in the relationship part of them, and relationship in whichever sense they have a relationship, I loved that it was a slow kind of rollout of that relationship. They see each other a couple times, and it's just like a sentence or two. Like it takes time to build. I wanted it to be platonic, but the last kiss made it seem romantic. And then also when Charlotte she seemed jealous when he was with that other woman.
Yeah.
Not just like, if she was disappointed in him.
Yeah.
I could see that as being a friendship thing, but it seemed more bordering on jealousy. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird moment because it kind of felt like both. Where she was like, we could be dancing at a club right now, but no, you're busy. Never mind.
And I liked that they're not having the best time together. It's better than anything else they got going, but it's not like a day out in Roman holiday. They keep doing it though, and they keep trying. And I really appreciated that they just go out and they're like, yeah, this was all right, I guess. But it's about there's more of those silent moments that they have together. I love the scene when they're in bed and he says, you're not hopeless, and they're not making out, but he's just kind of touching her foot. There's just like the slightest bit of connection.
Yeah. It was a confusing relationship.
Mostly, I loved the quiet moments of them in the hotel. I loved how the hotel stuff was shot, that lighting. And I think since it is a lower budget one, they're probably using a lot of available lighting, the actual lights there. And when you go into the street stuff, it's so much harsher. And I think that's intentional to have it be a dissonance of their own kind of safe space. That Park Hyatt is it's like a liminal space. It exists only as a transitionary point in their lives, not just between their hotel rooms and the outside world, because those are really contrasting. But they have this shared space at the bar that seems to be a safe space for them as they transition to different points of their lives. And then through doing that, they're more free to explore themselves, but with someone else. It seems like it's more of a story of self-discovery than love. Or maybe that's just what I want it to be, and that's why I didn't like what I think is a romantic turn at the end.
Yeah, I feel like self-discovery for sure. I feel like, God, I'm going to bring in some like ridiculous media here, but
Let's do it.
I feel like, so we're watching Wife Swap right now. And I feel like a bunch of the people, like the wives, talk about how they like...
Sorry, just a quick thing. Wife Swap was a reality TV show that went to many different countries, but the premise is there's two families, and the wives literally
swap families.
It's not a show about having sex with another wife, but rather usually more about the mother aspects and showing how they get used to certain routines, and then they're bringing that to a different family and the differences between these families.
And like getting... when they go back to their families, you get this like relief and this like kind of renewed vigor for like how much they love their family. And I felt like that's something that happens in this film because they're really out of their element in this new country and everything. And then they don't have those ties to home around them while they're also away. So they have this kind of environment to like experience something new and something different. And then like I kind of felt like the kiss was like a thank you for revitalizing my life as I go back to whatever it is that I'm going back to.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I like that better, but I just don't see it on the screen as much.
Yeah.
I would prefer if they did something to make me... You know what? I think that can still work because they can still be happy about that.
Yeah. It kind of felt like I said earlier, like
Go out there and get them.
like a bow on the top of this experience, and that's what it was they kind of reinvigorated each other for the lives that they have, and then it was like I'll see ya, thanks. Yeah, it just felt like a thanks for this experience, and I'll always remember you. And they just happened to kiss as well. That's kind of how it felt to me. But wife swap and Lost in Translation, similar content.
Yep. Well, we got through a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about pretty organically. One thing I did want to say is representations of Japan in film. I usually hate them. I kind of did in this one too, because this movie is both like kind of a love letter to Tokyo, but also kind of exploitive of it as well. There's a lot of the standard stuff you see. Oh, it's so crazy here. People are short. Their accents are different. Ha 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 ha. It was that, but also I don't love this idea of Japan being like, oh, it's so cool. It's so different. And that's like a good thing, but it's such shorthand for a lot of movies, particularly of this time. It still goes on, though, of like, wow, everything's crazy over there, huh? And you know what? It's not.
Yeah.
A lot of the things we think are so crazy about Japan don't happen in Japan.
No, it's just different.
It's like everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's a big city. That is true. And there was good use of using this big city to reinforce all of those things about how they are lost because they are seemingly literally lost. They are isolated because they don't fit in, and it's so vast and it can overtake you. So I liked all of that stuff, but I'm no expert on Japan. I've been 3 times. It's just another place. It's a great place. I love it. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't like this. I think it's just of anywhere. There's so many movies where like, oh, we'll go to India. It's so spiritual there. And like all of these things. I'm like, places are just places.
Yeah.
You can be spiritual at home. You can be spiritual anywhere.
Yeah.
You can do it in Japan. And I'm not sure if it's intentional that Coppola, the writer, is calling attention to this. But when Charlotte says like, oh, I went to this monastery or a temple and they were chanting and I didn't feel anything. I'm not sure if she's saying like, yeah, why do you think that just because it's a different country that you're going to feel something special? Or if Coppola herself is like, it's such a spiritual place and it's special because it's a different language and that's where you feel something. So if you don't feel it there, you never will. The idea of, because I lived in other countries and I met a lot of people who were going because like, I'm going to find myself here. And I got real sick of those people. So when I see it in a movie, I guess that's another personal thing, but it got a little annoying. And then there were some times where it was just kind of racist too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why do they switch their L's and their R's?
Yeah.
It's a different language.
It's a different
They
language.
don't have R's and L's. They have one sound that's in between the two. So when we say them, they're not hearing the difference, just like we do with their language constantly.
Exactly.
But
don't be a jerk.
Any other things? I didn't talk about formal stuff. Do you want me to just rip through a few?
Yeah, rip through that formal stuff.
Do you have anything as far as the look and sound, the formal elements of this that you found particularly interesting?
I think I already talked a little bit about it, but I did like how much stuff this movie gave you to look at. It's like the fancy hotel and how different it was from being on the street in Tokyo, and then how like busy but also how calm some moments were, and like the juxtaposition between them.
Yeah, I think that worked well to help create that isolation, because you have that busy city and then you'll be a quiet hotel room when she's just looking out over it. And then there's like the physical isolation because the hotel, it's on the 52nd floor, I think, bar.
So, yeah.
So they're so far out, and it adds to the isolation that way. There's a lot of mirrors, which is, I think, pretty self-explanatory that they're doing a lot of self-reflection that way. There's a lot of muted tones, especially in the clothes. For a movie that's so bright when it shows outside in
Yeah.
Tokyo, especially at night. What did you think of Charlotte's wardrobe?
I thought it was very much a 22-year-old trying to seem like an adult.
Because she's clearly attractive. You'd think you're a young person, you're out in a big city. You'd think she would go for bigger statements, maybe. You know who dresses exactly like this is Sofia Coppola.
Oh, really?
And it's just Sofia Coppola. I think that's when I was trying to figure out, like, why would she wear this? And why? It's just so many of those sweaters, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's interesting for someone in their early 20s who's, I think, traveling around the world for the first time and going to all of these places, that it's very reserved, but maybe classic could be a better way.
Yeah.
But she dresses just like Sofia Coppola.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think I stand by the fact that she dresses like a 22-year-old who doesn't know what she's doing with her life and wants to seem adult on this trip with her husband. And I feel like I understand that feeling.
I have a bunch more on my notes, but I don't think we need them all. What do you think? Are we about done on Lost in Translation?
I don't know that I have much more. This was a fun movie to watch, and I think that it's kind of special in that it really makes you like sit back and think about your own life, and like maybe it'll spark some memories of things that you kind of forgot, because you never know what's lurking back there in your brain.
Oh.
Whoa. What about you?
I like it. But while I was watching it, I wasn't sure I did. Because I think it is about capturing those moods more than anything. And I think it does a good job of that. I fear that it is speaking to me because there are so many things in my own life that relate to this. Like, I spent a lot of my adult life in countries where I don't speak the language or know anyone. But I always kind of enjoyed the fact that being in a place that is so different is isolating. I found a lot of peace in that because I enjoyed the isolation of being in a large city, because you have so much going on, but you can disappear into cities like that. You're just another face. And I found that kind of liberating. And I enjoyed how it forces you to be introspective and reflective. And it seems like both of these characters were put into that space but weren't ready for what they found when they had to be introspective. And then that leads them to finding some solace in another person, because maybe when they were looking inwards, they either didn't like what they found or there just wasn't anything. It kind of seems like with Charlotte, there was like, I just don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And she's never been forced to come to terms with that before.
Yeah.
And this movie doesn't give you a blueprint of what to do when you're in that place, but it does kind of show you the universal nature of being in that place. Or maybe not universal, but that it happens. And seeing a not necessarily complicated, but definitely a complex emotion to show in film, to see that is something that someone who has felt that or has experiences with that can latch onto. And maybe that's what made this movie so popular. Not that it was doing new things with lonely people in a foreign country, because that's not new at all. But how it captured the emotions of feeling disaffected or disassociated with your culture, everyone, humanity, and finding your place, how it captured that is something that's quite unique. I don't think movies do that well or often. It's usually something that you wouldn't tackle. You would just have them be in love and that's the story. And that's a fun story. That's probably a more fun story.
Yeah.
But because I don't see what this movie captures in other places, that's why it always stands out, I guess. So that's why it was so successful, and why I didn't love it while watching it, because there are scenes like when someone calls someone, and that's not how a conversation goes. That rip my stockings bit was very uncomfortable and offensive in a different ways.
Like that, yeah.
And you can see these things where you're like, I don't know, is this a good movie? The performances are great. The direction, very good as well. But what it leaves you with is something that's very tricky to do. That showing isolation doesn't need to be isolating. To find connection through isolation, maybe that's you finding it with the movie or them with each other. It's a contradiction in terms, and I think very complicated to pull off, and I think Coppola pulls it off here. So I like this movie very much still.
Good. I'm glad you like it still, because it was a good one.
Well, that wraps up our talk on Lost in Translation. Hopefully you speak English and none of this was lost in translation.
Whoa, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, well, they probably wouldn't be listening if they didn't.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Although maybe it's my thick accent that is difficult for them to hear. I got told so many times, they're like, oh, well, you have such a thick accent, people can't understand you. Like, people hear because they just see the color of my skin and just say, you have a pretty strong Indian accent. And it's like, I really don't.
You really don't.
I have very non-regional diction of a English teacher is what I have. But anyways, next week we are going to rebroadcast a classic. It'll be a surprise, but it'll be good because we are real behind on getting stuff done. Give us a break. It's free and it's every week.
It's free and it's every week.
Give us 1 week off.
And we've never missed a week.
And I'm not selling you insurance or crypto.
Yeah.
Yet. You're a crypto company that wants me to be a shill.
We're open to it.
You can pay me and I will, but I do not take payment in crypto because I don't believe it's real.
Real money, please.
Money's also not really real, but enough people bought in that it is now.
Well, yeah, it gets big.
That'll be for our next podcast.
That's for
Indy Against Society.
Money podcast.
Indy takes down capitalism.
Yep. Okay, we'll see you next week, everyone.
See you. On the topic of celebrities doing ads in Japan that they hope no one will ever see, Nick Cage, her cousin, did one, and he sings in it, and it seems like it's all ad-libbed singing, and it is wild. You should look that up.
Okay.
It's for pachinko.
Oh.